Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Shanks Unleashed Pod. I am Andy Stowe. He is Eddie from Ackworth, and he is the number one fan of the late, great Ole Anderson, the one and only Bill Shanks. And guys, welcome in. Sorry, Bill, I had to do it. Welcome in. We appreciate you guys joining us today. Make sure you are listening to Bill on the radio weekdays from 3 to 7. And make sure you're listening to Jeff Danzler from 12 to 1 for Lunch with JD. Make sure you listen to the superstations.com all day long. That's your go-to place. So, Bill, sorry I had to give you your Ole Anderson love. But
well, I've never really, not that I know him, but I've never really known of someone that I knew right this very moment was staring the devil right in the face.
So I got a question before we get going. Why do you hate Ole Anderson as much? Is it just because of his TV persona, or do you know stuff about him that you hate?
Let me tell you something, Andy Snow.
Yeah.
In February of 1980 at the Omni in Atlanta, that ugly brown building, that Ole Anderson, that piece of shit. Let me tell you what he did to Dusty Rhodes' American Dream, Andy Stowe. He got me in a steel cage match when I was his partner. Andy Stowe. I was his partner, Eddie from Ackworth. And let me tell you what he did. That son of a bitch turned on the American Dream Dusty Rhodes right there in the cage and beat me to where I had a highway map on my forehead, Andy Stowe. Let me tell you what I'm saying. But let me tell you, I'm the son of a plumber, and I'll be damned if I let that piece of shit who's staring the devil right in his face right now have any kind of a satisfaction over the American Dream Dusty Rhodes, because I got him back, Andy Stowe, because one time me and Abdullah the Butcher, we beat that son of a bitch so bad, and Mr. Wrestler number 2 got in there and beat his ass so bad, and it was payback time. Let me tell you something, because there is no honor amongst thieves, Andy Stowe. You understand what I'm talking about? Let me tell you something about hard times, Daddy.
Just let him go.
Sitting in that cage match, not having anybody come to Dusty Rhodes the American Dream's safety net. But there was Ole Anderson turning on me when I took him in as a partner because Ric Flair told me to. That son of a bitch told me to. And he turned on the American Dream Dusty Rhodes. And I want to tell you something. I'm glad he gone where he gone, if you know what I mean.
I don't know how we can follow that. I don't. I think we're just going to have to call it a night. Like Boss Hall said, this is fantastic. That was the best Dusty Rhodes impression.
Oh yeah, he does a great Dusty Rhodes. There's no doubt.
It was either Dusty Rhodes or Quincy Carter. I can't decide which one it was.
That was Dusty Rhodes. That was Dusty Rhodes.
That was definitely the Bull of the Woods. I'm a huge Dusty Rhodes.
By the way, I need a rag to clean off the thing.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, a lot of spit, huh?
That was great. Well, like I said, I don't know how to follow that, but we're going to do our best. We're going to try to talk a little Georgia and Braves and Falcons. But we want to thank everyone for watching us tonight. If you can do us a favor, please click that link and like it for us and subscribe and share it to your friends. Tell them you will get to hear the one and only Dusty Rhodes. He is back from the grave. He is here on the Shanks Unleashed podcast tonight. So, but we'll try to follow. Well, guys, there's a lot going on right now. It's off season, but there's always something going on. So UGA Football this past weekend, Kirby Smart hired James Coley to be the wide receivers coach, and they hired Josh Crawford to be the running backs coach. Doug Evans, and they hired Josh Crawford to be the running back coach. So, Bill, what do you think about these two hires? How will they affect the recruiting aspect, and how will they affect the coaching aspect? And do you see it as slam dunk hires, or are you skeptical? Do you like both hires? What do you feel?
Well, I like both hires. I got reports from coaches in the Middle Georgia area who I know who said that both were very good hires, that Crawford was a very good guy. They liked him a lot. They've known Coley, obviously, for a long time, from when he was at Georgia the first time around. So, yeah, I think it went over very well. And these are two recruiting hires. I think that's obvious, and I knew they would be, because not that you don't have to worry about coaching receivers or running backs, but I think that Kirby Smart lost Brian McClendon and Dell McGee, so you had to get two people who knew how to recruit. and he's done that, and I'm very comfortable with it. I feel like they are very good hires, and it's all about recruiting. It's all about getting them in there. And you know what? There's so many analysts now. We don't even know who's behind them with analysts to be a better position coach than they are themselves. So I from all accounts, it's a slam dunk and a really good hire for both positions.
Yeah, Eddie, when I know when they started talking about hiring a wide receivers coach, and I think I was more of a Terrence Edwards guy. I think I really wanted him, but I know he said some things. And I know you were Hines Ward. But how do you feel about about James Coley coming back? Because again, he is an excellent recruiter.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. And Bill hit the nail on the head. I mean, these are recruiting hires, but I want to go back one step further to T-Rob. When Kirby hired T-Rob, and I don't know how closely you guys are paying attention to the combine today, but I watched a lot of interviews and listened to a lot of stuff. And 3 Alabama players, Kool-Aid McKinstry, one of them, was asked about the hire with T-Rob and what he thought about that. And he was gushing. All 3 of those players were just gushing, saying it's probably one of the best coaches they've ever had. They hated to see him go to Georgia, that kind of thing. So that tells me all I need to know. And I'll take that one step further with Josh Crawford. All I've seen from Tech people is, oh, my God, Georgia has stolen one of our guys, and this is not good. That's also all I need to hear, okay? They are mad. Alabama's mad. Tech is mad that Kirby has gotten these guys in our regime to continue doing what we're doing, and I'm ecstatic about it.
South Carolina's mad as well. I saw
that's right.
I saw some reports. They were saying, they were like, oh, yeah, James Coley was so excited to be here until the elite program in the country came and got him, and he wanted to leave fast.
The same salary, too, by the way, $650,000, the same salary he was going to make at South Carolina, he's making at Athens, so they didn't even have to give him a raise. He knew, of course, Athens is a hell of a lot better than Columbia.
And plus, he didn't want to. I mean, Shane Beamer and Kirby is, night and day difference. Yeah, I think it's 2 great hires. I'm excited about it. And I, like you were talking about with the combine, I saw Kamari Lassiter's interview. Did y'all hear him talk about how Kirby and Will Muschamp was coaching them up and how hard it was?
Yeah.
It hit those interviews.
All the players that I've seen, Javon Bullard, all of them, Zion Logue, have talked about, even other coaches have talked about that, right? I mean, we heard the Philadelphia coach talk about the players. Nick Sirianni's talking about the players he's drafted, how well prepared these guys are for the NFL, right? And that's what Kirby Smart is doing. He's just ingratiating these guys with that mindset of how to practice, how to play football, how to be a better man, all those kinds of things. And it's just unbelievable to watch these guys that are interviewed.
Hold on, I'm looking up ingratiating.
I don't think I used it right, though. I think I used it incorrectly. Bill, shut up. You're a journalism major. Come on.
That's why I have this right here.
Yeah, we can Google it. I don't have a dictionary.
Actually, I did use it correctly. Bill just doesn't know how to use it. So,
are we going to talk about cockles again tonight? Are we going into Eddie's cockles? Maybe we can figure out that.
Both of y'all think it means something, and it doesn't. So go ahead.
Kelly's not, so why should we?
Oh man,
the bullet is coming out. I agree. It's. I mean, it is nice to have all.
Hey, I want to ask Bill a question though on this for James Coley and Crawford. You mentioned Crawford. He's coached mainly at the high school level, right? All down in the Middle Georgia area. Been a very successful coach. So obviously, and he knows basically all the coaches throughout Georgia, which is fantastic. Kalen DeBoer doesn't know any of them. That's another story. But James Coley recruits kind of that southern tip of Florida, right? Or down in that area. Do you think this was strategic for Kirby to hire these guys for those areas? Yes. Or do you think it was more like, they're great recruiters, I'm bringing them in? Or do you understand what I'm saying? Was it those areas he was going after?
Yeah, I mean, Ken from Cummings shared the list of players that Coley has gotten from the state of Florida. Kenny Mack, my God, I know I'm having brain farts, of course, but it was a long list of and great athletes. Who he got Pickens.
I mean, Carson Beck was one of the guys he recruited.
Beck was one of the guys he recruited. I think Tyson Campbell, maybe. I mean, more of them. But, I mean, it was a great group of players that he was responsible for. So, yeah, I think, Florida is important. There's no question about it. And especially as Norvell is getting better at Florida State, You want to make sure that you have that tie-in to the state of Florida. And I think anytime you can have anybody who can be a touchstone away from the coaches in the state of Georgia, you've got to have that. So, yeah, I think that's very important. I mean, Kirby knows all these coaches too. There's no question about that. But to have another guy on your staff that can reach out and really do something as far as have those conversations, have those look, biggest recruiting story I've ever told. Well, not story I've ever told. That sounded like I was a lie. One of my favorite recruiting story is Westside High School here in Macon had a player. Julian Burnett was his name. He was kind of in the same mold as the shorter linebacker, Rennie Curran.
Rennie Curran. Yeah.
And Julian Burnett wanted to go to Georgia. And his coach, the legendary Robert Davis, who since passed away, won a national championship at Warner Robins High School in the 70s. Just a fantastic coach. Called Mark Richt and said, I got a player down here that's just like Rennie Curran, undersized, hard-hitting little son of a bitch, and can play in the SEC. Mark Richt said, well, our coaches don't really think he's SEC material, yada, yada, yada. We just haven't graded him that high. We're just not that high on him. Well, so Robert Davis was pissed, to be honest with you. He was really upset because he knew this kid and knew of how good he could be. He turned around and called Paul Johnson. Paul Johnson said, I'll take him right now. The point of that is there are certain coaches that you listen to and you don't have to ask the question. If they tell you, I got somebody here that's not being recruited very well, you got to look at him. Really, Julian Burnett was an all ACC freshman, and he was a great player, got a neck injury, had to retire. But, that's the kind of situation that if you've got a coach like Campbell who can turn around and really do some things for you on those local levels in the state of Georgia, where you can have the kind of relationship where those coaches are going to be honest with you and tell you things like, look, I got a kid that's kind of like Rennie Curran and people aren't looking at him, but you need to really take a look at him and he wants to come to Georgia. You got to have someone ready to pounce. Yeah. And I think that's what Kirby Smart wants to have. He knows that he's got Mike, he's got himself, he's still got Will that's out there as far as network. There's no one better than those three, but to have a guy like this, I mean, when I sit there talking about him on the radio Monday and I get 2 texts just like that from guys listening that, hey, this guy's really good from high school coaches in this state, that's a big deal.
Mark Richt also recruited Cam Newton to play tight end. So you do with that what you want.
Yeah, and we can talk about Deshaun Watson, a wide receiver, or a cornerback. I guess it was going to be a cornerback or something, but yeah, no, I think they're 2 great hires. I'm excited about it. And again, it's Kirby. Kirby does, if he makes a bad hire, he'll fix it. So he doesn't stick with it. I mean, even with Coley was the OC, he realized it wasn't working, had to make a change. So yeah, I think I'm excited about both hires. But getting off of Georgia and going to college football more in more the whole league, they're talking about expanding the playoffs again. We haven't even started the 12-team playoff. Now they're already talking about going to 14. They're saying do the 3-3-2-2-1 model. So where the SEC and the Big Ten each get 3 automatic bids, the ACC and the Big 12 gets 2 automatic bids, and then the highest ranked group of 5 team gets 1 automatic bid. Why are we expanding again? And we haven't even went to the 14 game series. What do you think about this, Bill? Is this good? Is this bad? Am I crazy for questioning him? Going ahead and expanding before we expand?
Gators KB12 says money grab for NCAA. That's all it is. I don't know the NCAA is behind it. I don't know who's behind it. There is no organization in the organization. It is all haphazard. It's a clusterfuck. It is a big mess. There's going to have to be someone that's going to take steps to provide leadership here. I don't like, to be honest with you, 3 guaranteed teams for anybody.
Right.
I want the best teams. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that, and maybe if the Big 12, Big 10 and the SEC, sure, they may have, but I don't want it to be phrased like, well, they get 3 automatic teams. I want the 12 best teams or however many you're going to have. And, Bill King, who we air on our station, talks all the time about the fact he thinks the committee ought to go away and we ought to get back to the computers. I'm starting to kind of get back to that theory as well, because the committee, how can you be objective? Am I going to trust someone who is from the SEC who's on that committee who may not like Georgia? I don't know if I like that or not. So, there's a lot wrong with college football. There's no question about it. But it is a damn mess, and we got to give the 12-team thing a chance first,
right?
See if it can work and go from there. And we can't make any decisions until we know who's going to be in what conference, and we may be another year and a half to 2 years from knowing that.
Yeah.
Well, are we going to know that? Because you were talking today on the Bill Shanks show about potential expansion. So the SEC is going to be at, every how many 16. Are we moving to 20? I mean, and is that coming down in the next year or two as well? Is it going to be kind of when the playoff expands to 16? Is it going to be more expansion for the conferences?
Well, I think the FSU lawsuit's the first thing that's got to fall. We've got to find out what's going to happen in the ACC. If they let FSU out, or if they come to an agreement with FSU, then they'll have to do it with the other teams like Clemson and North Carolina, NC State, maybe the 2 Virginia schools, maybe Miami, maybe Georgia Tech, who want to also leave. My question is, what's going to happen to that money that you give the ACC if nobody's going to be left in the ACC? You're going to give it to Duke and all those other second division conference teams that aren't really that good. So it's just a mess. But I think the first time, I think it's got to be one thing at a time. We don't need to jump ahead to expanding something that just got expanded. Let's go one step at a time, get the FSU thing out of the way, see what's going to happen in the ACC, see what SEC and Big Ten want. Who do they want? What brands do they want? If they may have to sit down and say, okay, what do you want? I'll tell you who I want. Well, let's decide this. Let's do this. What do they want? So I think that's got to be a discussion, but just jumping ahead it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, can I throw in here what I like and dislike about the 14 teams? What I like, what I've read this far, is that the teams that get the bye then get a home game after that, and basically the bowls are gone. They're not going to play at neutral sites, from what I understand. So they get home games throughout, and there's a neutral site game at the very end. So they're not forcing those stupid bowls down our throat, which is a huge advantage to the number 1, number 2 seed, right? They get to take the week off and then play at home the next week, versus the 12 team where they take the week off and then they go play at a neutral site. I don't like that at all. The thing I don't like, Bill, I'm with you, is this tie-in. It's almost like this forcing of the bowl tie-in. Remember we used to have where the Pac-12 had to go to the Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl was the SEC. I hate that, because you could conceivably have, let's just say, Alabama and Georgia finish the season 11-1, and they play in the SEC championship, and then this is a crazy scenario, but the next best team, let's just say, is Tennessee at 7-5, and you got an ACC team who only gets 2, and Clemson's the 3rd best team in their conference, and they're 9-3, and they're sitting at home. That's absurd. That's totally ridiculous. I don't like these tie-ins. If you're going to do that, like you said, Bill, use a computer, top 14, go, be done with it. None of this tie-in crap. I hate that.
Ridiculous. I know it. It is stupid. And, they want to guarantee money, and I get that. But your scenario is exactly right. I want the best teams. I want the best games. I want the best 12. It's not that difficult. Why are they making it difficult? And of course, it's just a lot of stuff out there. You never know what's real and what's BS, but still, it's you never know. There are people out there, they're going to try to fill their narrative, and they'll leak stuff to Heather Dinich and all those other people out there. So,
And one more thing on this. Next year, it waters down the SEC championship. We go to that next level. The SEC championship is gone. I've already predicted it. The SEC championship maybe has 1 or 2 more years, and it's gone. It's just going to be who's 1 and 2 in the conference, and we're done with it. They're not going to play that game anymore because it's actually a disadvantage to play the game.
So
in the area they're setting up, right?
I did not think that they would quit playing that game until they started announcing this 14-team playoff. And once that happened, now I'm starting to wonder.
Yep.
Kevin also brings up a good point. And here we have Ken from coming. Kevin brings up a good point that they just started talking about 3 signing days, one in June, they're keeping the December, and then the February. What's up with that? Why not just get rid of the December signing period? That doesn't, like you were saying today, Bill, it's not helping anything.
No, it's not. It's stupid. It's I like the June. I don't think the June's a bad thing. I don't know why we have to have December. I'd always said, kind of a late July, early August thing before they get started with practice. But I could deal with June, get the people already locked in who you want to have locked in, at least for 1 year, and then go from there. But I don't know what the December thing's all about. I think it's stupid. I think coaches are going to complain about that too. If you're in the playoff, go ahead and forget about sleep for a month.
Right.
Yeah. You're going to be, and when's the transfer report? I don't think you can answer the calendar about the recruiting days until you know what the transfer portal days are. Yeah. There's got to be some symmetry in that, to where even if they're not symmetry and they're the same dates, but you don't want them overlapped. You want to have some parameters on your schedule. I mean, I feel sorry for these coaches. You know what? Nobody should complain about them making 6, 7 figures at all with their schedule. And I don't know how the divorce rate's not 80%, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Ken, what do you think about this?
And hey, Ken from Cumming, how are you tonight? Good to have you on the show.
Time out. Can I ask Ken from Cumming a question? Is that lamp one of those things with the Christmas story?
Yeah, it does look like it. Is there a leg under that lamp?
You're right. Is that lamp right there? It looks like it's got a little fringe on top, like it has a leg, like what Darren McGavin did on the Christmas story.
Yep.
Can you speak?
Is he muted?
Well, Julian's out of town, so I'm hosting tonight. We'll just leave it at that.
Well, you didn't even answer the question. We're talking about your lamp.
I think I have a severe delay here, so I'm going to go off and come back on because it's bad.
Yeah.
Okay. He'll run back.
A Dodger fan. There you go, Bill.
That's my fault. I shouldn't have let a Dodger fan on here. Well, guys, we were talking about football, but I want to shift to baseball for a minute for UGA baseball. They have started the season out at 8-1. They're hitting the ball really good right now. The team average is 337. They have 27 home runs. They've scored 97 runs. Opponents are hitting 257 against them, and they've had 15 home runs, and they've scored 51 runs against the Dogs. So they're opening up a 3-game set this weekend versus Tech, who is also 7-1. How important is this series for the Dogs moving forward? And is it just important for the rivalry because it's Tech, or is it important for the whole season in general?
Well, I think it's important for the rivalry. There's no question about that. Anytime we play those people, it's important, and that's good. I think it's 2 teams off to very good starts. They only have 1 loss each, so that's good. They both have really great stories. The Burris kid for Georgia Tech and Condon for Georgia with Home Run City. So I think the weather's going to be bad tomorrow in Atlanta. So I don't know the stats got that game, but still, I mean, I think it's a good early season test. But until they get in conference play, nothing matters.
Right. And I'll say this: it's been fun to watch them. They're just bashing the ball. Charlie Condon's worth the price of admission. I mean, he may be the best player in college baseball. He's unbelievable. He's really unbelievable. But the pitching is a concern. I mean, our bats have kind of overcome that the past several series, right? We're scoring 10, 12 runs, and we don't have to worry about what the other team's doing. They score 8 runs, big deal. But that kind of came and bit us yesterday. I know it was 1 game. It doesn't mean a whole lot, but the pitching's allowing a lot of home runs, and that's a very concerning thing. But I think this Tech series is kind of a glimpse into what the SEC may be. Tech's a good baseball team, so we'll see.
Kind of a measuring stick.
Yeah, exactly right. It's a measuring stick, I think. And I hate Tech. I despise them. So we wanted to go out and beat them. But it's a good way to put it, Andy. It's a measuring stick for the SEC, I think.
Yeah, and you brought Charlie Condon up and how good he's doing. Right now, he's hitting .636. He has 7 home runs. He's slugging .1417, and he has an on-base percentage of .696. He is on pace to break the Gordon Beckham single-season record of 28 home runs. And obviously, we're not in league play, so it's hard to tell exactly what that pace will end up being. But Bill, is this hyperbole for me to say Charlie Condon is one of the greatest all-time baseball players for Georgia? Is that,
that's like saying, Eddie from Ackworth's one of the all-time great callers on the Bill Shanks show. That's not saying a whole hell of a lot.
But it's true.
I love you, Eddie. I love picking at you because I love picking at my elders. No, look,
for 2 more weeks.
He's a great player. He's an outstanding talent, and I think he is going to. If you got a player who's going to be a top 5 draft pick, I mean that's about all you need to say. When's the last time we've had a top 5 draft pick? Derek Lilliquist, Braves, 1987. I mean, 37 years ago. I mean, it's been a long time. So we've had some good. I mean, I guess Beckham was in the teens, wasn't he? I believe.
Yeah, in the teens, I believe.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
So, I mean, when you're talking about a top 5 pick, holy cow, that's a big deal, So, I think he's one of the better players.
Bill, let me ask you a question though. Let's just say Charlie Condon is the number 1 pick. Let's just say that, okay? He's going to be the number 1 pick. I have no idea what NIL is for these guys in baseball. No clue. Is it possible that the NIL staying at Georgia next year is greater than what he would get as a number 1 pick and possibly going to AA for 2 years? Is it better to stay at Georgia now?
No, because I think the top pick would still get a large. I mean, top 5 picks are still going to get a lot of money.
Yeah. How much are you talking about?
$7-8 million.
Oh, it's that much. Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I mean, we can look and see what Skeens got last year, but I mean, I don't think Georgia's got that kind of.
No, they don't for the baseball team. There's no doubt about that. I had no idea they were getting that kind of money.
Yeah,
they get drafted like that. Okay.
And plus like Charlie Condon ought to be in the big leagues pretty quick.
Yeah, I agree. I was just curious if NIL had changed for baseball, right? Because it's changing players in football, no doubt about it.
I think it will to a certain extent. I mean, the number 5 pick last year got $7.1 million.
Okay. Yeah.
You go. I mean, Hurston Waldrop got right at under 3,
right, for
the Braves. So I mean, it's your first rounder, you're getting $2+ million. So it's the fringe players though that could be able to say, well, we're not going to be taking you until the 6th through 10th round. Well, those kind of players may have an alternative to go back to college for another year.
Right.
Can we talk about the Braves for crying out loud?
Yes, let's move into the Braves.
Maybe Ken will leave.
He left. He's gone.
Maybe cut his ass off.
He's gone. Yeah, let's talk about the Braves. The Braves are in the 7th game. They've played 7 games in spring training so far. They're 3-4, which we don't care about the record so much in spring training. Bryce Elder got touched up a little. AJ Smith-Shawver got touched up a little. But Spencer Strider, Max Fried, and Chris Sale have all looked great. Spencer Strider, I was going to talk about Chris Sale, but Spencer Strider, I think he has taken that next step to not only – he was an ace last year, I believe, but I think he has taken that curve. And I know you talked about it on your show today, the overlay that they were showing his fastball and his curve. Like, the sky's the limit.
Ridiculous. I mean, that's absurd.
Yeah, I think it's ridiculous that this guy is learning another pitch. I don't know what he's going to call it. But I think for him to have another option to throw up there and just to put in the minds of the hitters is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. I've said time and time again, I think his changeup's overrated. I mean, underrated. I wish he'd throw it more.
Me too.
He throws it like what, 7%, Bill? Wasn't that last year? It was like a very low percentage.
Yeah, it's just I wish maybe throwing a curveball will give him more good feeling about the changeup.
Yeah,
I'm just a change-up guy. I believe in the change-up. I believe in what that pitch does for your arsenal, and I hate it for someone to not throw it enough. But it's scary what we've seen so far. We've seen Spencer Strider not give up a run in 2 games, 9 strikeouts, I believe.
9 strikeouts, yeah.
We've seen Chris Sale, 4 strikeouts, 2 innings, didn't give up anything. Max Fried had a great performance. We've not seen Charlie Morton yet. Not seen Hurston Waldrop yet. I don't know why. I'm not a red flag yet. I don't know who's pitching tomorrow, but still, it's I think the pitching's been outstanding so far, and it's early. It's February 29th. I keep on saying that, but my gosh, to have that kind of start from your starters and look as good as they have so far, it's a good sign. We got 4 weeks left. 4 weeks from now is opening day, so we've got a lot of time left.
Well, today you had Strider. There were 2 games, right? I mean, they split them, whatever. I'm going with a 5-0 game, 5-0 game against Minnesota. Strider, Bummer, Jimenez, Mentor, Pierce Johnson, and I keep saying Zion Logue. I know that's not his name, but Logue. They pitched phenomenally. And that's what you want to see, especially Bummer, Jimenez, Mentor, and Pierce Johnson. I mean, Strider's a given. That was really encouraging to me to see those guys do that. I loved it.
Yeah, and I know, Bill, you were talking about Ken Giles, and I actually got to see him pitch yesterday. I hope my boss isn't watching, but I flicked it on while I was at work, and I saw Ken Giles throwing. He looked really good, and he was throwing mid-90s. I mean, he's not throwing 98 again, but, I mean, he's throwing mid-90s, and he looked good. That could be –
and he mowed down some major league players. They weren't rookies that he mowed down.
Yeah, he gives them –
Harper, right? I mean, come on.
Castellanos, yep. There's no question. I mean, those guys were good. I went back watching last night. The slider looked lethal. He doesn't throw anymore. He throws, I saw 95, like you say, and
95. Yeah,
that was good. And I think for Alex to bring him in tells you that he feels like he can contribute. We saw that slider. I mean, the slider had to be the thing that got their attention. So I think that was outstanding. And again, you want options. It's the most important word in roster construction, whether it's the Georgia Bulldogs football team or the Atlanta Braves baseball team. You've got to have options. And for Ken Giles to come off the deck, so to speak, and to give you another option like that for the bullpen is a tremendous thing. So, yeah, I loved it. And I've been overly encouraged by the pitching so far. Knock on wood, we don't know anything that's negative. We don't know anything that may be going on. I'm sure there's something going on with injuries or people nursing this or nursing that, because it is, we are getting into March. So that does happen after a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. But for the most part, I mean, it's been a really good camp. Stats be damned and results be damned. Just of seeing what this team could look like in a month, it could look damn good is what it could look like.
Yeah, and today you said something that really kind of caught me, and I was like, I agree with you 100%. You said last year when the Braves would play, you would be excited and ready to see them hit, and you said now this year it's kind of flipping. You're ready to watch them pitch, and you're talking about Max Fried, who again I've said on here and on your show that I think he's going to win the Cy Young. I think he's going to be the best pitcher this year. You got Spencer Strider, who could very well be right there in that. And then I think Chris Sale, and that's what we were talking about him. He looked so good. He hit 97, and I think you got 3 aces on this team. I mean, am I getting too excited? Am I making too much out of this?
Well, if Chris Sale makes 30 starts, I don't know how he's not going to have a good season.
Right.
Every time Chris Sale has had a full year, he's done very well. I think if Chris Sale makes 30 starts, he's going to be in the Cy Young conversation. And so I love it. I don't think there's any doubt that Max is an ace. He's got a 3.03 career ERA. He's got a 700 winning percentage in his career. I think Spencer Strider is becoming an ace with every appearance that he's making on the mound. Right. And I think Chris Sale has proved in the past that if he's healthy, he is an ace as well. So I don't think it's a stretch at all. This could be the best rotation the Braves have had since the Big Three. And that's been a long time since they've had all 3 of them. That's 23 years since they've had all of them there. They've had good rotations in the past, but we're talking about impact pitchers that really are playoff starters, number one, and people who can go toe-to-toe with any other ace pitcher. You're talking about the top 4 for this rotation, including Charlie in the discussion. I mean, who are you not going to feel good about, if they're all 4 healthy and doing well? And then if Lopez does get the 5th starter's job, that's going to be because he earned it and is better than the other options, which is pretty good, So I'm sitting here watching Strider right now with some highlights on it. And how many teams could have? It's like, I know there's ifs. All spring training is if. But if Max or Spencer or Chris Sale start 30 games, all three could be Cy Young. And so candidates. And how many teams could say that?
Well, last night, Behind the Braves started on YouTube. Did you guys get a chance to watch that? It's a phenomenal.
I have not seen it yet. That's great. I watched
last night. It comes out every Wednesday, Behind the Braves, and they started it last night. And the first scene they show, they show him coming back to camp. And the first scene they show, Bill, is Brian Snitker up in front of the team. And he goes through what a tremendous year they had last year, all the all-stars they had, just incredible. And he says, but every time I go to Costco, everybody says, great season, but, and I have to answer that question. He said, I'm here to answer it. We didn't get it done. He made that clear to the team that last year was great, but they did not get the ultimate prize. He said, all you guys in here are winners, and you know what it takes to get it done. The goal, basically, he said in so many words, is winning the World Series. And I just got chills when he was saying that. It was very casual what he was saying. You know how Snitker is. He's just kind of, speaking off the cuff. But they were it was a phenomenal episode to listen to that. And they're all like, we're here to win the World Series. We were disappointed with what happened last year. All that crap we did in the regular season was fun. We set records, but it meant nothing in the end. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think, and they also know that when you have a team this talented, you've got to have one goal. You don't want to fall short. I mean, the more talented you get, the more disappointed you'll be if you don't win it all. Things happen, in 2020. Things happen. I think they were better than the Dodgers that year.
Yeah,
I think they.
They were.
I think they were better in Tampa Bay, but they blew a 3-1 lead in the LCS, so they make it. And out of the last 4 years, I'm glad we got one championship out of it, but we've been, close, obviously, with that 2020 thing, and that was horribly disappointing, horribly difficult to bounce back from. But no, it is. It's. This is. Every team goes into spring training with rose-colored glasses on. Right. You want to have that, golly, if this happens. I've joked about it, but even when they were awful, I used to try to be optimistic about, if Ron Gant can learn how to play second base, maybe they'll be okay. Or, maybe Charlie Liebrad can do the job as a 4-star. Maybe it's time for Tom Glavine to turn that corner. You always have expectations and hope that somebody can get over that hump and get you. This team has no holes. I don't worry about the bench. I think it's going to be fine. And like Alex said earlier in spring about getting players before the trade deadline, he could have gotten a bigger name player than Nicky Lopez, but they would have been unhappy because they would have been on the bench. Right. Sometimes you need bench players for bench roles. And that's what he's got with JP Martinez and Forrest Wall and David Fletcher, guys like that. This team is great on paper. It is a great team. So I think they should have that thought process and carry it with them the entire year.
And one last thing, it was cool to hear Matt Olson talk about how they won 104 games last year, and a lot of teams around the league would be like, the management would be like, hey, we're right there. We don't need to do anything. Let's just stick with what we got. And he was so excited to hear that they brought in Chris Sale, that they brought in Jared Kelnick. Alex is like, okay, we did that, but we didn't get accomplished what we wanted to accomplish. And Olsen was like, I love to hear that from Alex Anthopoulos. He's like, we're bringing these guys in because we want to get it done. And he was excited about that. He said, we improved the team and we were 104 when we won 104 games last year.
And how excited are they going to be if Chris Sale is back?
Oh yeah,
exactly. My God, look at our unbelievable rotation now. Mm-hmm. So Doug on the chat here, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being a metaphysical certitude, what's the chance of re-signing Max? Well, I want to be surprised, Doug. I don't think we can be very optimistic considering what happened with Dansby and Freddie going back. That should probably mean nothing because of Alex Anthopoulos. I think I'd feel a lot better if Max got done before the season started, because if it doesn't get done, then it's probably going to see him go to free agency. I think it would be a catastrophic mistake for them to lose Max Fried. And I've said that a million times and written columns about it, where it's probably just repeating myself. But I don't know, maybe a 5. I mean, I hate to be kind of on the teeter-totter and back and forth, but there's no reason for me to be optimistic. And the only reason I'd be pessimistic is because what happened with Dansby and Freddie, and that's not necessarily fair, because maybe this is different, but I think it'll just be a catastrophic mistake if they do not re-sign, because he will go to the Dodgers.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew, everybody knew, Braves knew, Alex knew that if Freddie left, he was going to go to the Dodgers. Everybody knows the same thing about Max. He grew up a Dodger fan in LA. So, that's the way it is.
Yeah, like I said, I think he's going to have an excellent year. I think I think he's going to win the Cy Young, and I think that's probably going to price him out of the Braves, but which it shouldn't, because of all the money they're printing from the battery. But I think that's kind of what's going to happen. But I hope Max Fried is an ace. We do not need to let an ace walk out the door.
Never. You never let them walk out the door.
Yeah. On CBS, they posted the other day the best rotations in baseball. They have the Atlanta Braves #1, and they have the Houston Astros #2, the Phillies 3, Seattle's 4. Then they got the Dodgers, Ken from Cumming, Darth Ken. They got them the 5th ranked rotation in baseball. So, like you said, the Braves are as good as, they should be the best team in baseball. And I think when Ken called your show today, like you guys were saying, it would be shocking if both teams if they didn't play in this championship series.
Well, it was shocking last year, wasn't it? I mean,
it was
what we thought was going to happen last year, and it didn't. So.
Sure. Yeah, and that's baseball. I mean,
that's right.
It can't happen every year. It's tough. The Dodgers, they what they won 111 2 years ago, and the Padres knocked them out in 4 games.
Yeah.
We
Arizona Diamondbacks play for the World Series title and had a chance. I mean, they were right in it. They were a badass team.
Yeah. We scored 5.7 runs per game and scored 8 in 4 games.
We scored 2.0 during the per game. I mean, it was ridiculous.
And you're quick. You are.
I'm telling you.
I mean, 8 runs, 4 games. Damn, 2.0. I mean, you can't get nothing past you, old Edward.
I know it.
Hey, the intelligence and
sharp as a bowling ball, right, Bill?
Right there.
Yeah, intelligence, good looks, and gray hair, all right there in one full swoop. My gosh, unbelievable.
I don't know why I continue to do this, but whatever.
Hey, and Chris, what's the first date in the season that you check the standings?
March 28th.
March 28th.
Yeah,
because I'm crazy.
You got to. When the Braves go to Philly and win the first game of the year, when Max Fried shuts them down, you say, "Hey, the Braves are leading the division." So yes,
I want to start strong. Max's injury in Game 1 last year was obviously unfortunate. I want to start strong this year. I want to take 2 or 3 from the Phillies. I want to sweep the White Sox in Chicago, come back home, have a good home stand. I want to start strong this year. I think that'd be really good.
And here's what I want more than anything: get to October, and if we play the Phillies, fine. Damn it, let's play them healthy for a change. Because the past 2 years, you said it, Bill. It's like almost we're snake bit. I'm not making excuses, but the pitching staff was not healthy either of those 2 years. The year prior, when we won the World Series, we got through it somehow. But we have not played the Phillies with a healthy rotation yet. I want to do that with these guys throwing BBs and see if Bryce Harper can hit that 99-mile-an-hour fastball with a healthy Spencer Strider. They haven't faced that yet, and it pisses me off.
Well, Alex Antapa said on my show when I talked to him about the pitchers he's added, Chris Sale, Reynaldo Lopez, brought back Pierce Johnson, brought back Joe Jimenez,
added Bummer,
brought in Aaron Bummer. All of those guys had one thing in common, and that is their strikeout per 9 inning pitch ratio was very good. So missing bats is the name of the game here. And Alex said, no, it's not a coincidence. Yes, that was our plan. those are the bats he wants to miss. He wants to miss
Right.
Shohei Ohtani and Will Smith and Freddie Freeman and Mookie and Harper. I mean, you got to think about those, particularly those. I mean, think again. He knew he had Matzik coming back. He had AJ Minter. He had Dylan Lee. He goes and gets Aaron Bummer. He gets Ray Kerr. I mean, so you got 5 potential lefties that could be in that bullpen for a particular series. That if you say, okay, by God, I'm not letting these fucking Phillies beat me, I'm going to have 5 lefties in there. Well, that's what he's going to do. And so the strategy to try to beat these teams was there. Miss bats. Do what you can against lefties, give them hell, and score some runs. And so I think that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, and that's what you talk about, scoring some runs. We've been talking about pitching mostly, but one thing I like, Michael Harris in that lineup, they've moved him up to 6th, and I don't know if he'll stay there, but it looks like that's going to be his spot this year. How do you feel about that? Do you like him in the 6th slot, or do you prefer him in that 9 slot to sort of flip that batting order around with the 2 leadoff guys?
Yeah, I do like him down at 9 to do that, to say, okay, we go to the bottom of the 3rd inning. It'll be, Arcia, Harris, and Acuna. I do like that. Acuna. But I think if he becomes, look, Michael is possibly going to be a 30-30 man this year. I think you got to look at him and say, okay, he's not played a full year. He had some injuries last year early in May. He obviously came up a year before last and didn't play the whole year. So if he gets 150 games, let's say, what can he do? Well, he's had 18 home runs, 57 RBI, 20 stolen bases last year. Give him, even 15, 16 more games, and he's getting there consistently. Can he be a 25 guy? There's nothing wrong with that. I don't know if you want that kind of guy batting 9th in your lineup, although still I love that protection there. But it's going to be interesting to see what Snit does. He may think it's time to move him up there and give him a look-see and have Murphy and Arcia and Kelenic down below. Maybe he puts Kelenic at 9 because Kelenic's speed too, So I think he's going to play around with that a little bit in spring training once we get closer to.
I think it's good there at 6 to have Michael Harris get another bat or 2, right? Where he wouldn't normally at 9. That's what I like about it. But I'm with you, Bill. I think that flip around there at the end of the lineup, but that takes away a bat from Michael Harris, and he might take advantage of that being in the 6th slot. So I like that move, but we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah. I was kind of thinking Arcia may be that 9 guy, but I didn't think about Kelenic. But Kelenic's a really good point, and maybe that would take some pressure off of Kelenic. So maybe he is the 9 guy. That's true. I didn't think about that.
Well, and Kelenic comes up and Acuna's behind him.
Yeah, you just want to see some fastballs. So.
By the way, y'all watch that thing I told you to watch about the Braves? You talk about Strider not missing leg day. Kelenic does not miss leg day either. That guy is a tree. He is.
Hey, y'all, I'll be back. Okay, I'll be back.
Okay. All right. No problem.
Well, Eddie, we'll move on. I want to talk about the Falcons a little bit.
I wanted to hear Bill's thoughts on the pitching changes in the MLB.
We'll circle back to that while he's going.
I'm very curious to hear about that. But we can talk Falcons. Go ahead.
Let's talk about the Falcons a little bit. The rumors were heating up yesterday. They said that it could even get done yesterday, which we know it didn't. But the Justin Fields to the Falcons rumors. Now, I know you've been big on Justin Fields to the Falcons. I haven't been as big, but I'm not against it either. But if you were the Falcons general manager, is this what you would do? Would you get Fields, or would you go sign a free agent and not have to give up any draft capital? And remember, if you sign $35 to $40 million. So
say that again, Andy. I'm sorry.
If you sign one of those free agents, you're going to have to pay $35 to $40 million for those guys.
In your scenario, you're saying Kirk Cousins, we signed for $90 million for 2 years, and we give up no draft picks, right? Right. Versus we get Justin Fields, and we may give up, I don't know, a 3rd round pick, maybe the 2nd round pick as well. You said it already. I mean, you know how I feel about Fields. I think that's worth it. I would give up picks to get Justin Fields. I really would, because I don't think there's another free agent on the market. Kirk Cousins is a great quarterback, and I know we've discussed this with Paul. We've argued, Paul Maharry. We've argued over it many times, but I don't like the money that's involved. I think that really hurts you going forward because this team has so many needs. And 90 million, if that's what they're saying, 45 for the next 2 years, that's not been like written out yet, but that's what we're hearing for Kirk Cousins. And he's 36 and he's coming off an Achilles. I don't like that scenario. That's not a good scenario to me. Justin Fields, you can kind of take a chance on this kid, okay? You can trade a draft pick, hopefully the 3rd round pick, maybe the 2nd round pick. Let's just say I'm happy with the 3rd and the 2nd. I'd do that, okay?
So
right
trade
now.
both of them? Trade the 2nd and 3rd?
If you had to. If there's not a player involved, Andy, I'm saying there might be a player involved, but that's the max I'd do. I'm not giving away that 1st round pick, okay? I'm saying worst case, 3rd and 2nd, give it away. You're only paying him $3 million this year, and you're paying him $17 million the next year, and then the big contract comes into play. So then you can kind of figure out, okay, after 1 year, you can say, hey, this is not working out, or yeah, it is. Let's look down the road. We can sign him big time. I just think Justin Field has so much upside coming home. He's going to ingratiate himself to the fan base. He wants to be here, I believe, and the fans want him here. He's a hometown kid, okay? And change of scenery, that's done tons of things for other players in the league.
Right.
It really has.
It has. And I'm with you. I do not want to give up a 2nd round pick for him, though. I would give a 2nd round pick, but I would just go with 3rd round. But if they want a second,
I agree. I'm just laying out the worst case scenario, right?
I would not give up the 2nd and the 3rd. I would give up one or the other. If they said, okay, we'll take just a 2nd, I would probably do that. But I would not give a 2nd and a 3rd. I would prefer just a 3rd. Or like you had mentioned, if they gave up the 3rd round pick and let's just say Kyle Pitts goes to Chicago, I would be fine with that. But I do not want to give up a 2nd and a 3rd round pick. I think
that's tough. I understand. Is he back?
Yeah, Bill's back.
All right.
Yeah. I do not want to give up. Bill, we were discussing what we would trade for Justin Fields if that is the route that the Falcons general manager decided to go.
Well, I would prefer a 3rd than a 2nd for sure. I mean, we think we're going to get a 3rd pick from Jacksonville in the Ridley trade. So that would mean you're just taking the excess there and putting it toward another option at quarterback. So I would prefer that. I don't want the Falcons to bid against themselves. I think that's my fear is I don't think there's anybody else going after this guy. I know Pittsburgh and Seattle and maybe another team has been mentioned, but I think Atlanta has been mentioned so much. I think that's it. So I just don't want them to overpay, whether it's for Kirk Cousins or Justin Fields, draft picks or money. Just don't want them to overpay. They have a lot of needs on this team.
Yeah.
And they need to get a lot of things in this draft. And, I was talking with someone this morning about this, if they are just 100% sure that Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels or even Drake May is the guy, then okay, but you're going to sacrifice your next 2 drafts and you better not screw it up. Because when you do something like that and move up and pay that kind of price, you can put your franchise behind for a decade if you fuck it up. I mean, it's just no other way to put it. You can go that far behind to not have draft picks. Look at Carolina. How much better would Carolina have? Bryce may be great, but they turned around and had another bad year. Could have had the 1st pick in the draft. Could have traded that for more picks and gotten a ton of talent. And instead, they don't have anything. So you got to be sure that you are right. And, I wish I had more of a definitive opinion about this is what they should do. I hear Eddie talk about Fields. Sure, I'm intrigued of whether or not he can get better. I hear my buddy Chris Hefner talk about Kirk Cousins and the short-term help that could provide. And then you turn around and get a young quarterback in the draft as well to have someone for the long term. I'm intrigued by that. I just don't have all right, this is what we ought to do. Boom, here it is. So I'm hoping whatever does happen, I'll be happy with and can kind of live with it. But they just have a lot of needs. They have a lot of needs. They have, and 2 weeks from yesterday is March 13th when the NFL free agency starts. Will they trade for Justin Fields before then? If not, what will they do about Kirk Cousins or Baker Mayfield? I mean, we're going to know probably the next 2.5 weeks who the quarterback's going to be. Right. And if not, then we're going to know they're going to make a play for one of those top 3 picks.
Put that comment from Big Hoss back up, please. Does Fields win Atlanta a Super Bowl ever? No. Go up in the draft and get Daniels and May. Okay. Well, Big Hoss, how the hell do you know that, first of all? How do you know Daniels or May is going to be any good in the NFL? We don't know that. Now, I'm not saying Fields is Tom Brady. I'm not saying that. But he's been in the NFL. He at least has some experience. You're going with an unknown commodity. And by the way, to get to Daniels or May, what is that going to cost? What is it going to cost?
Well, I think Big Hoss does raise a question. And if you put it like that, of trying to say, all right, we can define quarterback in many different terms. We can say franchise quarterback. We can say starting quarterback. Who is the quarterback that's going to get them and win them a Super Bowl? And I think there can be a differentiation there as far as this is a selection of who we've got to be our number one guy. Can he get us there? We thought that Matt Ryan was the type of quarterback that could get you a Super Bowl. We could envision him standing up on the podium, raising the Lombardi Trophy. Because
wait a minute. Let me stop you right there. At this time, did we think that, Bill? Because if you go back, whatever the year that was, at this time, we're looking at the draft. You and me wanted the kid from LSU. We didn't want Matt Ryan.
We had no clue. We had no clue. No, but I think
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
That doesn't mean you don't ask the question of, okay, is this the guy? And to be honest with you, though, Eddie, after what happened with Petrino and Michael Vick, I didn't give a shit what happened. I was just glad that somebody was definitive enough to make a decision that this is our quarterback and this is who we're going to. I mean, I didn't know Mike Smith. I had to go Google who Mike Smith was.
Yeah, I know.
I was glad Dimitroff was coming from New England. I wasn't really sold on Matt Ryan because he's skinny. And I'm like, okay, maybe this will work. Maybe this will do it. But I was so burned from what happened before that I really didn't care.
Right. I understand that.
Great. We got a new coach and a new quarterback and a new GM, and they're not called Rich McKay, Bobby Petrino, and Michael Vick. Let's give it a shot.
Right.
I'm gonna bring Chris Taylor in. What's up, Chris?
What's up, Chris?
Morning, guys. How are y'all?
Good.
Hey,
What do you think? Who do we go? Do we do it Fields? What do we do? You're the Falcons GM. What do you do?
Yeah, I'm probably not sold on Fields. I like his escapability. I like his mobility, and then I get afraid of his accuracy after he gets kind of going and frazzled. So I think he's obviously not your long-term answer. Is he a stopgap, or is he somebody that gets you, to the next, guy that's ready to come in and take the reins? But I mean, I was just thinking when you guys were just saying that just a minute ago, this time or this past season, we had Ritter, and all we were a game or so out of a playoff picture, and we were just asking you not to have a meltdown at the end of the game. I mean, what you need in a quarterback might not be
Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, right. You might not have to look, to have a savior. You just need somebody who doesn't melt down at the wrong time. I mean,
Chris,
could he be that?
Chris, if Justin Fields is our quarterback last year, do we make the playoffs?
I mean, I think so. Does he make the same mistake?
There you go. I think so too. I think that's 2 more games right there at a minimum.
To me, though, the thing that makes Justin Fields interesting is only if Zach Robinson, the quarterback coach, feels like that he can make a difference with Justin Fields and make him more of a passer. The accuracy thing is a problem. Kirk Cousins is intriguing because he threw for 70% of his passes last season with Minnesota before he got hurt. Yeah. Okay, I'll take somebody who throws 70% of the passes.
Yeah.
Desmond Ritter was at 55. So if they do get Justin Fields, that's got to be a declaration that Zach Robinson, the new offensive coordinator, who was a quarterback coach for the Rams, who coached with Matthew Stafford, believes he can make that guy more of a pocket passer. And I thought today he backed off of his rushing a little bit this year. He went from 1,100 something yards to 600 in 2023. If he comes to Atlanta, he doesn't really have to do that because the 2 running backs that got behind him with Algier and Robinson. So does that force him to become more of a pocket passer and get that accuracy? And to me, if they do make a deal, it's all because Zach Robinson feels like he can make a difference in something that Chicago could not do.
Right.
Yeah. And I want to big house like I agree with you what you're saying about these are tier 1 guys. But when Patrick Mahomes was drafted, did we know he was going to be a tier 1 guy?
Hell no.
When Josh Allen was drafted, did we think he was going to be a tier 1 guy?
No.
Because they had the same type of questions.
Exactly.
That I say are these guys are crapshoots. There have been so many guys, and I take up for like the guy who, well, he's in our front office now in Atlanta. The guy who fell in love with Mitch Trubisky. People were a little surprised by that because it was North Carolina State. It's like, well, are you sure about this? But look, he saw Trubisky. He didn't just flip a coin. He saw Trubisky, whether it was the combine or the workout or what at pro day, and he said, you know what? I think this guy can develop into a really good NFL quarterback. Yeah. Let me tell you something, boys. That's a flip of the coin. You know how I know? Go through Wikipedia and go through every NFL draft and see the Achilles Smiths and the kid from LSU that won to the Raiders and on and on and on of the quarterbacks who just look great. They look like Tarzan and they came out and they play like Jane.
Yep. No doubt.
Yeah. It's so hard.
So, Chris, you didn't answer the question. Chris is the GM of the Falcons. What are you doing?
I'm probably going Fields because I feel like I have enough pieces now that he's the spot. Everybody else, to the point that we made, to me is speculative enough that I think it outruns the Arthur Blank kind of runway. Like, if we think about it from a, the next coach has 3 years or the next coach has it all kind of has to come together pretty quickly. And I think he's the most battle tested of what you could definitely make an argument for, hey, Jaden Daniels could come in here and be, be a world beater, but you don't know.
Yeah.
So I think I probably would do that because he, you hope that he would complement what's already there and experience would play in your favor from that perspective. But, that's probably, where I go. Although, just in and of him, I don't know. I mean, he doesn't, I'm not, waving the Justin Fields banner. I just think he may be the best option.
What about Kirk Cousins? What are your thoughts on Kirk Cousins?
I worry about him coming back and us being our hopes being, kind of pinned on his getting back to 100%. We've just seen Rodgers happen, and it's like, oh shoot, that would be a bad storyline to endure here in Atlanta. But one draft question I have, and this is truly a question: how many more years do we have guys that are going to be drafted with kind of that COVID bonus year? Is this the last year of it?
I don't know about that. I'm not sure.
The seniors, when you draft a senior this year, they could potentially have been in college for, an extra year, but at some point that runs out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think I want to say this is it. I want to say this year is it.
Well, I just wonder because they're up there in Indianapolis, and you have to wonder if these guys, if you draft this year's quarterback or you draft this year's center or this year's whatever that you think of as a cerebral kind of position, they have an extra year. They're matured an extra year,
right?
Potentially, and at some point next year's can only be, partially as developed as this year's crop of draft eligible guys. So that was one thing that I had thought about with them all being up there doing that, all the interviews and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So,
I think one thing that as far as the potential improvement of Justin Fields, I know it's a little bit different, but Baker Mayfield is better now than he was three years ago.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, Baker, and I'm looking at his numbers right now. His first year, well, really his second year. Second year, he had 22 touchdowns and 21 interceptions. He came back the next year, 26 touchdowns and 8 interceptions, so much better. The completion percentage was better. Took a step back the next year, but then obviously this year, more yards he's ever thrown for, 28 touchdowns, most he's ever thrown for, 10 interceptions. But the completion percentage was 64.3. So at 28 years old, he got better, and it took him going to really his fourth team, but really his second team as a true starter. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of leap you've got to hope for Justin Fields. And again, I don't know if he can do that. I mean, I'm hopeful. I'm curious. The reason I'm curious, I think, is because I saw improvement from him when the Falcons played them this past season. He was better than he was in 2022 when they played him.
Yeah.
When they were in Atlanta in 2022, he was not very good. He was kind of scattered. He was kind of running for his life. May not have all been his thing, but you could tell he was more under control, more of a veteran. You know, it didn't look like a young player trying to prove himself. He looked more composed. And so that has me intrigued too. You know, okay, can we take that? It's like your baby step. Some of these quarterbacks obviously don't do what Matt Ryan did, and boom, I'm playing and I'm cussing out my offensive line in week 1 of the preseason, right? It takes a little time for a lot of these guys. And I think the lack of patience with quarterbacks in this league is totally detrimental to the quarterback position. I'm not saying that Sam Darnold or Zach Wilson are tremendous quarterbacks and they're getting screwed, but how long was the leash on those two, right? How long was the leash on a lot of these guys? And it's because it's the NFL. It's not for long. You either play, and that's why Arthur didn't want to play Desmond Ridder. Let's be damn honest about it, right? Yeah. He knew hell, I'm going to get fired if I keep on playing this sucker.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put in Taylor Heineke. So that's why that's done. But for the most part, there's a lot of lack of patience for these quarterbacks. How many can we look at and say, okay, this guy was kept? I mean, look at Geno. Geno comes out of nowhere. He looked like he was in the witness protection program for 5 years, comes back, and he's a different quarterback. So, you know, can Justin Fields follow that same path of simply being better as he gets older, especially with a new quarterback coach, offensive coordinator who has had success in the past?
And also and we can laugh about it if we want, but I'm sorry, the Falcons are more talented than the Bears are right now on offense. They got a better offensive line. They've got more weapons than the Bears do. He can damn hand the ball off or hit Bijan out of the backfield and makes him look like a superhero. We're just, I'm not going to say loaded with talent. We have a lot more talent than the Bears do. That's why I want to see Justin Fields here, and I think he really excel with that.
And plus, if you go and trade and get Justin Fields, he's only in that rookie deal. You have a ton of cap space. You can load up the team.
Exactly.
But if you go out and sign one of those free agents, and I said the other night, I was like, yeah, let's go get Baker. But if you sign one of those guys, you're pretty much taking all your cap money. Yep. If you get Justin Fields, you have enough money to maybe add another offensive lineman, add a veteran wide receiver like you were talking about today, Bill, to go on the opposite side of Drake London. You have plenty of money to do what you need to do.
Go ahead, Chris.
Well, I was going to say, Bill, we have a lack of patience with the quarterback position because we also have Brock Purdy coming in a relief role and then and taking his team to the Super Bowl the next year. So it's like you watch what happens and unfolds in another place, and you're like, we can't wait. CJ Stroud. It all kind of works against the message of patience, which I prefer the tenured quarterback who works his way up and lasts for a few years as a storyline. I mean, we all kind of like the guy who puts in the work and gets there rather than the rise to stardom and overnight.
But I also think it involves the team, right? If CJ Stroud had been drafted by the Panthers, would he have been as great a quarterback? No, of course not. If Bryce Young had been drafted by the Houston Texans, he'd probably lead them to the playoffs, right? I mean, they were. I
think CJ was a little bit better, but your point is right.
You get my point, though, right? I mean, a lot of that has to do. You get a crappy team; they're drafted number 1, and the quarterback looks like crap because the team is crap.
Kevin asked about Zach Wilson. I don't know. I mean, he could be one of those guys as well. He hasn't shown a lot, but who knows? I mean, maybe he's just in a bad situation.
He can sit as a backup. We can sign him as that. I ain't signing Zach.
And Desmond's going to be the backup because he's a young player who's under contract for a cheap salary. So chances are Desmond, they'd have to really think he sucks to let him go. Let's be honest. I mean, and I'm not saying they may not bring in 2 quarterbacks. They may sign Cousins and draft a quarterback, right? That might happen too.
Right.
But, I mean, Ritter's got a pretty good chance of being the backup quarterback here, unless maybe they trade him. I don't know. But I think if you could carry several quarterbacks, would it be interesting to get a player like that to see? A lot of people mentioned Stetson, which you can't do that. You don't know what the hell Stetson's situation is. But the point is, a quarterback like that could be a developmental guy.
Yeah.
Well, you need to go draft one. If you're going to do that, you need to go draft one, and that's what I think they're going to be able to do.
Yeah. Well, Bill, when you stepped away for a minute, I was going to ask you one question, and I want to ask you this before we get out of here. Major League Baseball is discussing limiting pitchers on a team from 13 to 12. So, and they're saying they may do that as early.
I knew that was going to be the reaction. Go ahead, Andy. Sorry.
What is your reaction to the 13 to 12? Does it matter? Will it affect anything? Do you like it? Dislike it?
I think Rob Manfred is a fucking idiot.
I knew that was going to be the reaction.
He knew it. Why limit anything? Why is that going to? So is he trying to think that that's going to make pitchers go deeper into games? I don't think it will. I don't think there should be any. If a team wants to carry 15 pitchers, let them carry 15 pitchers. I don't like that at all. I don't like restricting.
What is the motivation behind this, Bill?
Thinking they'll go deeper into games.
Make the starting pitchers go at least 6 or 7 is what they're trying to do. Because
if you got fewer relievers, then you
have to go.
Forced to do that.
Forcing them to
just
do that.
Promoting offense, just trying to promote runs scored.
No, I think that there is no question there is a problem with pitchers not going deep into the games. Right. Funny thing is, I had a pitching coach tell me 10 years ago was because they don't want to pay the starting pitchers all this money, and yet the elite starting pitchers still get paid a lot of money.
$40 million.
Because they can go deep into games. But if you're going to restrict them from going deeper into games, because they're not going deeper into games because of the overprotection of pitchers with the arm, which is ridiculous. The overprotection of pitchers has not saved pitchers from getting hurt. They're still getting hurt. So, I think the concept of, well, if we have fewer pitchers, fewer options, but what if that causes more injuries? These guys have not been developed to go deep in games, which is the problem. Somebody at some point is going to have the balls to say, okay, look, we're going to go against the grain here, and we're going to stretch our guys out. Go look at how many minor league innings some of those guys had 30, 35 years ago. Look at what Tom Glavine and John Small, well, Glavine especially. Glavine had some years where he had 200 innings in the minor leagues. Yeah. They would tar and feather a guy if he did that to a minor league pitcher. Now, he's going to get hurt. Your job's on the line. But you've never proved that it really coincides with each other. So, I think it's stupid, and any limitations are going to be a problem. I really do.
Yeah, I think I don't like it. I understand what he's trying to do, because I get the whole try to get the starter to pitch longer, but I don't think it's a good idea to limit a team from how many pitchers they can have.
I agree.
Like you said, if they want to have 16 starting pitchers and 10 position players, let them do it. Do what you want to do. Yeah. Well, guys, we've been going at this for a while, so I think it's about time to hang it up.
Hey, can I say one thing before we get out of here? Sunday, and Bill, you're going to laugh. You're going to think this is ridiculous. Have y'all watched Caitlin Clark play basketball for Iowa? This girl, she is an absolute stud, and she plays on Sunday. 17 points she needs to break the all-time scoring record. I know Pete Maravich played in an era where there was no three-pointer, so we can say that. But this girl not only can shoot, she passes like Trae Young. She rebounds. Go watch her on Sunday play. She's unbelievable. I was blown away by how good she is.
Is she a trans?
No, she has a boyfriend. She's a straight girl. Straight white girl.
Let me sit down.
Yeah. She's phenomenal, Bill. Go watch her play Sunday. They play Ohio State. It's must-see TV. She's incredible.
I did see that she declared for the WNBA, so she will be going to the WNBA next year. So I saw that today. Awesome. Well, guys, this is fun. I appreciate it. We want to thank everyone that was watching. Like I said, make sure you are liking our videos and sharing them and subscribing. We really appreciate it. Make sure you're listening to Bill weekdays from 3 to 7 on the superstations.com. Listen to Jeff Dazzler from 12 to 1 on the superstations.com. We appreciate it. For Chris Taylor, for Bill Shanks, and for Eddie from Mackworth, I'm Andy Stowe. We'll see you next time.